Okay, and we're back live at GoSec 2023. I'm now with, my guest right now is Evgeniy Kharam. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you may have seen us before. We're on LinkedIn. He actually introduced me. Evgeniy is also, I'm just starting my podcast. He's actually a more senior podcaster. He's been doing this for quite some time. It's been what, 3 years now you're doing it?
So almost, yeah, 3.5 years.
2 years, yeah. So he's definitely got a lot more experience than I have. It's just your first time here at GoSec, right?
First time in GoSec. I'm very impressed, very humbled. You guys doing a very good job. So many people. It's like a home atmosphere, but on an enterprise level.
Oh, I've never heard that before. That's good. I'm glad so you think it's pretty good?
Yes.
Okay, good. So because we always need to take in things, things for improvement, right? So always trying to improve every year. So you actually gave a talk today.
Yes. Earlier this day, I was speaking right after the keynote.
Okay.
And we were talking about, I guess, interesting topic, because we usually tell the vendors how bad they are, how wrong they are to customers, and how they need to change the way they deal with customers. And I approached it differently.
Okay.
And I was, I guess, trying or educating users.
Right.
Can they talk to a vendor differently?
Okay.
And potentially elevate the conversation and how they connect with each other. And by doing this, I hope it's going to give us much smoother transition, better experience, and actually align the requirements they need to a project or to a product.
Okay. So that's actually a really good. So what was the feedback actually from that conversation? Because I got to be honest, like, as you know, me coming from GoSecure, we work with vendors, right? There are partners and so forth. But on the client side, like, when you're getting that perspective from the client side, it could be frustrating for them to work with vendors, right? Because maybe vendors have this one approach that, hey, they're trying to, push their wares as obviously as they should be, right? And it's the manner in which it's done, right? So sometimes I feel like maybe vendors are maybe pushing things down someone's throat more than they should, kind of overselling the solution and its capabilities. Do you see a lot of that still happening today?
So, first of all, yes. But what you're referring right now is vendor selling.
Yes.
Let's think about this. Customers also need to buy.
Yeah.
In my personal experience, customer may have 20, 50, 100, 150 different solutions on the enterprise level. And they may have new projects, new clouds, new system. So it's not just the vendor want to sell it, it's the customer want to buy it.
Exactly.
One of the analogies I was doing during the presentation is you going to a doctor. You want to have the best experience and the best outcome. So you're actually going to prepare for the visit.
Yes.
You want to learn what kind of questions the doctor is going to ask you, what kind of maybe tasks you need to do in advance. And it's in a way similar to a customer. They want to have a project accomplished. So they need to align and educate the vendor.
Right.
Education expectations, one of the key points as well, to how they work, how they learn, how they want to understand information, understand legal internally, understand third-party vendors internally, understand and educate the vendors what need to be happening for the project to be a success.
That's right.
Because we do know project takes longer right now,
especially
especially for the last 4 or 5 years. There's a number of things the customer can do to have this entire experience less painful and more enjoyable as well. Also, if you think about this, we learn differently. You maybe like a demo. I maybe want to talk about architecture and design. Somebody else maybe want to touch the project. How can I know?
Right.
Every environment is different. Every person is different.
Right.
And I think a customer may tell the vendor, Mr. Vendor, I know you want to show me a demo. I actually prefer to do this. And it's back to expectations. Another example, can I interrupt you while you're talking? I don't know, but it depends what we agree on yourself.
Yeah.
Some cultures people interrupt all the time.
Right.
Some cultures they actually wait until a person finishes talking. It's based on what we accept and agree and talk to each other. Same is here. If you agree on common ground with the vendor, then you're going to be okay. If you're not, you may gonna have a problem.
Right. And I think a lot of it stems from where, obviously, post-pandemic, the scenarios change, right? Where people are trying to engage with customers, trying to let them know what their wares are that they have that are in line with the evolving industry, how the industry is evolving, the technology is evolving, and yes, they want to bring that information to the customer to let them know, a potential customer, let them know how this may be beneficial to their environment as well. The thing is, and we hear this a lot, they get overwhelmed by how many different vendors are approaching them. They don't know, like buyers don't know how to buy. Is basically what I'm saying, right?
We do say there is this idea of educated buyer.
Right.
Because nothing's stopping us to Google, use Bing, ChatGPT to compare. So I think overall the buyers are much more educated. But we can go on the next level on what to do and what can be done. I kind of finished my talk a bit quicker than I expected, but I had a lot of questions that I didn't expect. And it was very nice to have the questions and topics. And some of them were, if I know I don't want to buy a new solution, but I need to renew a vendor,
right?
What can I be doing to have a better experience? Or how can I ensure after I getting the solution, I will get the same response as before I'm buying this? Because if I'm buying, everybody available,
right.
I'm finished buying, nobody cares about me. Another one I liked was when we're doing in writing use cases and success criteria, it's always changing. It's almost like dramatically, oh, let's add this feature, squirrel, let's add this feature. So how do we deal with this? And I think in my mind, we need to involve project management. They're the people that design and know well how to maintain tasks and make sure how not to have a scope creep.
Right. Because in your background, you're actually, you're a security architect, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of architecture, design, implementation as part of my life, so I understand how a scope can very, very quickly go out of the scope.
Right, and so, so you could actually you would have that experience of trying to explain to a customer what the added benefits are in what you're trying to achieve for them, right? So, do you find that in your role, in what you do you find that there's enough on their side, reciprocal-wise, where they are understanding what needs to be done, even though you've explained it, but sometimes even after they've purchased a solution or a service, it's only down the road, it's like, oh, well, this is not actually a fit for what we're doing, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we see what we call shelfware quite a lot, people buying and staying on the shelf for a long time because there was no communication between the teams in the company.
Right.
They forgot to understand or had no time to understand that maybe the business needs something else.
Right.
So we need to align our security needs to the business needs as well. And the business, they want to buy solution for on-prem, but the business want to go cloud. Less communication. And this unfortunately has to come from a business management and managers and kind of push it from top down, understand how the collaboration can be done better.
Okay. So from your talk, was there anything that stood out? Any of the questions that you felt like, hey, I'd never heard that one before, or do you find it was a common kind of ground where people were asking kind of like, what people have felt like, hey, that's something like some people are embarrassed to ask, right? So did you get like a question that felt like, hey, the whole room was like, hey, that makes sense, like I should have taken that into consideration?
I think one of the parts that was common is we're in Canada, we're very polite, we say sorry all the time. So people not always feel that they can push the vendor.
Okay.
They can actually almost like validate the vendor.
Right.
Oh, your support is good? Can you prove it to me? Can you show it to me? Oh, you tell me you're going to put this feature? Can I talk to a product manager and show this feature on the roadmap? Not just tell me it's going to happen.
Right.
Because if you're telling to everyone that it's probably nothing going to happen. So be more demanding, but in a nice way.
Right.
You don't have to be rude. You can position yourself back to expectations.
Right.
You can expect the guys are going to push you, but they're going to do it in a nice way. And I'm doing this not because I'm trying to be...
No, you're trying to educate, you're trying to let them know what's available to them, how this is going to benefit them. Absolutely. Okay, good. So you're not doing another talk here today?
No, one talk today, yes.
One talk. Do you have any other upcoming events coming up in the next month or
Yes,
anything?
I'm actually doing the same talk about how customers can work with vendors in Toronto in 2 weeks. There's a conference for retailers. And end of October, there's a sector, Black Hat.
Yes.
And I'm talking there about a technical topic called Browser Security Enterprise Browser.
Nice.
101.
Okay.
It's a relatively new kind of domain that I'm very passionate about it, and I think there's quite a lot of people need to understand the use cases and how they can use it.
Oh, great. So I think actually I'll be attending Sector, so hopefully I'll link up with you. Why don't you let people know about your podcast? I know you have 2 podcasts actually you're running, which is that's very impressive. Why don't you let people know what the 2 podcasts that you have?
Thank you. So my main job is consulting to consulting people. I'm consulting to MSSPs, VARs, and vendors. But I also have a podcast. One is with Dmitry Reidman. It's called Security Architecture, and this is the main podcast where we interview vendors and we kind of dive in to design and architecture. We want to go beyond marketing. We want to make sure that when people buying solutions, they're going to understand how to implement this.
Right.
So this is one part, it's very technical. The other part, Cyber Inspiration, I'm doing it by myself.
Right.
Where I talk to founders of the companies to understand how was the journey? How did you start it? Why did you start it?
Exactly. That's the one I know. That's the one I've been
It's
following.
more about like a business one, but it's quite fascinating to see and peek behind the curtain on their problems.
Yes.
Not everything is pink. Not everything is always nice and fluffy. There's quite a lot of challenges there.
Yeah, no, you've got some great interviews on there. And how often do you're coming out every 2 weeks or so?
So the Cyber Inspection coming every week.
Okay.
Architecture we are now moving a bit to every month, just because we want more time for every vendor to show the light on them.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So listen, we're going to provide the links to Evgeny's podcast that you can follow you. You can follow you on LinkedIn. They can follow you obviously on your podcast. So I'd encourage you to listen to his podcast. So
Awesome.
Listen,
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming by. Take care.
Please hang up and try again.